Here we go again, another season of Football in Focus from the Teed Up Indoors on Battleground Avenue. Got a great show planned today, got a great season planned. Talking about high school football is always fun, a lot going on in high school football. Been some games already, some scrimmages, some 7-on-7s, practices. Man, I've seen every team so far in Guilford County, 15 teams in like 2 weeks. All the coaches made all the visits, got finished up yesterday in High Point. I saved the toughest for the last. Got over on McGuinn Street with Coach Jenkins and High Point Andrews. Found my way. I was going to Simeon Stadium. He gave me directions. I was coming up Johnson Street, but really never made it over to there because Coach Doak at High Point Central said, "No, I got some kids. I can't get over there yet." So he didn't say come to the school. So I think I'll just go to the school. So I went to found my way to the school. You get down Main Street, then make hook a right on Green Street. Start looking over to your right. Oh yeah, there it is. And then you go find Central and then pop in there and talk to Coach Doak. So they were the last two yesterday. So got all the coaches in and ready to go full steam for this season. Good year coming up. And I know you're excited about it because you've been putting things in the paper. I mean, I'm having to do all this work, try to keep up with what the news and records do. Bryant Roche, he's got the linebackers today. I think had you maybe the defensive lineman. You got the linebackers, the defensive lineman, the offensive lineman. You've had the running backs. You've had quarterbacks. You've had the receivers. Pretty soon you're going to have the trainer on there pretty soon, I guess. All those people on there. So it's all been good, huh?
Pretty good, yeah. We've got defensive backs coming out tomorrow is the plan. So that'll be, the last position group on the table. But no, I appreciate you following that. And Andy, as always, thank you for having me.
I was looking for my name. I think you might go back circa 1975. I would maybe get. I wonder today when I saw it, I said, what have I got my name? You always think about this stuff. You put yourself in a position from back then to what it is now. So, wonder if I would have made that list back then. And if I wouldn't have made that list, I would have looked somebody up. I said, man, why didn't I make that list? Come on, man, get me on the list. I worked hard. I want to be on that list. I think on those guys that get on the list, everybody's happy. I noticed today it looked like the defensive lineman, one of the lists I saw had, maybe it's the linebackers, kind of more of the guys from Oak Grove and Forsyth County, a little bit more dominant than the guys from Guilford County on that list.
Maybe a little bit. We did have a lot of strength on that list from Guilford County, though. Bryce Davis, in my mind, is really the cream of the crop in this area. Talking about Chance Cruz, who was the leading tackler in the conference last year over at Northern Guilford. Justin Dockery.
Who's that again at Northern Guilford?
Chance Cruz.
The other guy, too, who was one of your linemen, was this guy, Moore. Remember Moore?
Yeah.
Moore kid? He was here on our show last year. Great kid. Another kid I like, too, you mentioned on there, the guy that caught my attention was this guy, Rob Lang. The guy was at Southwest Guilford, not Northwest. Yeah. I knew Northwest got one of their players. I said, if they got Rob Lang, man, they did well, because Lang was good. He was very active.
Yeah, they're going to have him on the edge. He's going to be making a change from
because he was a defensive lineman, now linebacker, or he was a linebacker, now lineman?
At Southwest, they ran a 3-4. Well, they still do, but he'll be running in a 4-2-5 at Northwest. So he'll be maybe a little bit more of a pure defensive end for Northwest versus a 3-4 kind of, hybrid outside linebacker type. It'll be interesting to see, how they use him in their system. But yeah, so maybe a slight change going from a 3-4 to a four-man front. But he's definitely one of the guys that the colleges are looking at, D1 recruit. He's got some interest. I've been told he's got a good amount of D1 interest.
The guy I like, too, is that kid from Dudley, the Jordan Ratliff guy, who took almost all the page of that sports section picture. Big guy coming at you, big guy.
He's a big old hoss. He's
and they got a lot of them over there. Woo.
And that should be a strong.
You got another guy in there, too, from Dudley. He was kind of like the surprise guy. Who was like I think he threw the discus. He was a discus thrower. Now he's converted toward football, too. And another big one for the Dudley Panthers.
Yeah, I like him. He's Dudley has done a really good job in recent years between Tequil Jackson and that track group, and a translation between track and some of the other sports. So I think he's just an athlete. And then I also, speaking of other sports, I also like Andrew Rogers. He's a tall, long.
He's the basketball guy.
Basketball player. He was a starter as a freshman this past year. I know you follow the basketball pretty closely too. So he's actually got an offer from Kentucky already.
In football?
For football, and he enters his sophomore year. So he's still pretty young. And then you mentioned Ratliff. a space eater. And don't forget Dakota Brown. He's another big boy.
Bunch of tackles last
you know,
year. He and Ratliff together last year, they were just like dominant up front.
Two big boys.
You like to run against that. You wanted to run outside if you could get outside, and you hope maybe you could run behind the bench, sneak back in the field and play and get back on the field.
I was going to say there might not be a whole lot of room out there against this Dudley front. I really like this Dudley front. This line looks really good.
Well, you better get through that line quick with those guys. The biggest error, if you don't get through there quick, they're going to kill you. That's like that movie, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He's going to kill you. He's going to kill you. Remember that time he destroyed that guy's car? And they all got mad. That was a great movie. But back to movies, too, kind of a reflect, kind of a rewind a little bit. Since we're teed up indoors, let's go back, because I think I thought of this place. I was thinking back about the Wyndham Championship this past weekend. I wasn't thinking about the guy who won. His name was Ray or Rye or something crazy. I was thinking about this Matt Kuchar, who came back and played, took 3 shots on Monday, took 3 shots and made $70,000. He improved that much and made $70,000. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I guess they got to play them all, and with that weather circumstance, they pushed the action back, and that gonna, I guess you never know what's gonna happen, on that last hole or whatever, and so he could have made bank, he could have collapsed. You never know, I guess, but they got to play them all and make sure those checks are accurate. So.
I was telling the guy yesterday with Remax Revolution Real Estate, Robbie Eford, talking to Robbie yesterday. He said what they did, Kuchar just dug the flag in the ground where he was at and then came back and started from there and finished up Monday. And Robbie said he was going to be playing Sedgefield yesterday afternoon because he left the course in the same setup as they had for the PGA tournament back on the weekends. He would go out and be able to play that, which would be kind of fun too, play that PGA setup. So he was going out there to Sedgefield. So Sedgefield's been busy. And you've been busy because we talked about Monday, that's when Kuchar played, and you didn't play, but you attended the East Forsyth Grimsley scrimmage over in Kernersville back on Monday, so you saw what those guys were up to.
Yeah, it was a nice, I really believe those are a couple of the best teams in the Triad. A lot of star power on that field. Grimsley, I think, maybe coming in with a little bit more of unknowns, so to speak. They lost a lot more players than I think East did, although East did get some transfers in as well. So I was kind of intrigued to see maybe how some of those transfers meshed in for East. For Grimsley, I was curious to see how some of those new guys looked. I was curious about that secondary going against a pretty good receiving core. I was curious to see how that offensive line at Grimsley would look since there were some new faces there. You saw Faison, you saw Bryce Davis. That was the first time I've seen him live since he got injured last year. Right. And he looked like he was just fine. So.
And you saw Andre Hill, too, big Andre Hill up front. Andre's big. I saw him back in middle school at Kaiser years ago, and he's made the transition to the team. I think he's got a younger brother coming along now, too, in the program. So Grimsley's still loaded, but you told us, or you told someone, maybe not telling me, or somebody else told me this, too. Said they felt like Bryce Baker from East Forsyth did well. Maybe East might have had just a bit of an edge over Grimsley Monday. I know they're both good.
Baker's very good. I really like Baker.
That might have been good for Grimsley, too. That was a good test.
I think so, and I think that might be what Darryl Brown was looking for in a way. I think he wanted to see what his team has. I think to an extent you go to these scrimmages, and obviously not every coach is going to run, maybe everything that they're going to run in a regular game, but I think you did see some of the signs. You saw that Mitchell Summers was still same old Mitchell Summers. He had a really nice catch and run for a touchdown at one point.
I'm just glad he made a catch. I want to see him throw him the ball more. Let him catch and run with it. That'd be a good part of their game plan.
I mean, broke a tackle where it was one of those where that knee was, sort of leaning down, but he managed to stay up. I mean, he's just he's still going to be a problem for people, and but I do really believe that East Forsyth is going to have a strong team this year if they can, maybe figure out a couple of those tweaks in terms of some of those new guys and how they're going to use them. Todd Willard usually does a pretty good job of that, probably accustomed to that because he's had to do it, a decent amount. So
what's Grimsley
yeah.
got for the backup running back? They got a backup running back for Summers. If Summers were to go down or need a break or need a breather, probably won't because he's such good shape. Plays all those wrestling and football sports. But do they got a new back coming along? I think they do. I think because the Shoemate guy, Ty Shoemate, he's a freshman. Not sure if he's the backup guy or not, but I saw Ty on the middle school team last year, so I'm sure he's part of the mix for the future. Might be JV, might be some varsity now, might be the old, he's an 8-quarter guy. Okay, tell me what to give me 8 quarters, slice him up in 8 different pieces. But they probably got that guy out there.
They had a rotation out there. You saw the second team guys as well. They kind of had a blend of first team, and then they were doing 8-play drives regardless of result for a while there, and then they were, subbing out, first unit and second unit, some different personnel groupings, periodically, and then they did some situational special teams type stuff, did some field goal kicking, did some punting.
Good.
They didn't do contact on the special team stuff, which, so it was mainly more for the kickers and the snappers, holders, etc. Didn't have a.
Hope it's not on kickoff issue like the NFL rule. The NFL has those guys kick off, and he kicks off. Those guys stand back in that box, and you can't move. It's like a video game. You can't really move until the guy catches the ball. Then the people up front can move and go try to chase him. Then it's like, man, what do you do next? Put the guy in a golf cart, let him drive up the field, see if you can tackle the golf cart. I mean, they've changed that game too much, I think. But back to your points. It leads me to this question here. You saw the Monday action, right? Saw it pretty close. Just those two teams Monday? Grimsley and
Just those two teams that played against each other.
The question is, are you going to be at the action tomorrow night over at Grimsley? Do you go to that one too?
I think I'm going to hop a little bit. I've got my eye on both the DJ Reader event and the High Times event over at Simeon.
Gotcha.
So I do envision probably bouncing between the two, trying to catch a little action of several different teams.
Yeah, because Ragsdale's got Asheboro. Then Northwest has got, who they got? Grimsley, who they got? I know who Ragsdale's got, yeah. I got to look back up and see who they got. But, man, I got it posted at GreensboroSports.com.
I do know Northwest plays in the nightcap.
Yeah, they played the last game. I think Grimsley plays second. Ragsdale first against Asheboro. Grimsley plays second. Then Northwest might be going against.
They're supposed to play like 8:40, I think.
8:40 is the last number.
Is what I saw.
I hope to be there for that one tomorrow night. I want to check out those guys, see what they got, and try to catch some coaches' comments afterwards. And a lot of video lately. You got to keep pushing it out there because now you got to start pushing these buttons. If you push all the buttons now, then if you let up a little bit, let off the gas pedal, then you're kind of going backwards. You got to keep going forwards in this football coverage thing now. But Grimsley tomorrow night, they got their action going on. Then you got the one, like you say, it's. Simeon City High Point, got the High Times Classic, then you got the Farm Bureau Insurance event up in Rockingham County featuring Southern Guilford, also featuring, who else we got up there? We got Page up there, Page Pirates up there, yeah. And they played Eastern Alamance back on Monday. I heard they did fairly well, it looked okay. Heard Northeast looked pretty good against their team down in at the Roseville event back on Saturday, so he's heard some pretty good reports this week. And Dudley looked good from what I heard against Mallard Creek back on Tuesday morning down there. Heard the Dudley passing game was balanced, running both guys, Jeffries, and also running two at the same time, Crawford. And I heard the running game was very strong.
Oh, yeah, they're going to have a pretty strong running game. They've got two guys that rushed for 1,000 yards last year. And I got to believe that with that quarterback situation, maybe if they're still trying to figure it out, early in the season, I think, what they say, your best friend is a good running game. And, I think if they – maybe if they can just rely on an effective running game, they might be able to ease in whoever they choose at quarterback.
Yeah, they got guys like, I think it's Jordan Brown and L.J. Southern, the running backs. And they got a third one, too, that's coming along from what I hear. Then you got the quarterbacks, Crawford and also Jeffries. And you got the wide receivers, you got Bartley. Then you got Newkirk, who might be the top. That's pretty even. Then you got C.J. Neely, very good. And you also got... and you got, don't forget the kid out of Page too, Blackwell, Ryan Blackwell. He gets lost sometimes. He plays good defense. He might be a defensive back in college. I don't know. And then you also got Antonio Lee. They got 5 guys as a receiver. Probably a 6th guy I didn't even know about. There's probably the 2. They're loaded.
There's probably someone in the system.
And the thing about Dudley last year, they found, I don't know how they did it. No other teams I saw do this. Dudley was the only team I saw do this last year. Somehow they actually had 2 footballs on the field at the same time. They were using 2 footballs in a game because they had so many guys needed the football. They started using 2, and they got by with it. How they did that, I don't know, but that's what they may have to do. You see what I'm saying? You see where I'm coming from, man? There's a lot of hands out there. A lot of hands. Need a lot of footballs, those guys.
Oh, goodness.
But looking forward to it for sure.
Is there enough to go around?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't hear any rumblings about guys complaining last year, though, so that's a good thing about their team.
Nah, and the thing about that, they're winning games. As long as you're winning. If you're unbeaten, if I'm unbeaten, I'm not going to complain. I just want to get ready for the next team. Let's go again. But I'd heard that story about baseball plenty of times. A guy would have an extra baseball in his back pocket. All of a sudden, he threw one on the field, and in live action, everybody starts scrambling for it and blow the whole play open. Things will go haywire. Let's get to some other stuff here with Bryant Roche here today at the Tee It Up Indoors on Battleground. They got a brand new sign out front too. Can't miss it. Now when that sign comes on at night, that sign is beautiful. It's got the beautiful lights, and you can stop by on Battleground and check out Tee It Up Indoors and Davis Troxler. He's a teacher, instructor. He's got his little daughter Gracie. We got Natalie here tonight. Natalie's in charge of this operation this season. Natalie's doing a great job. Also does some photography work for Yes Weekly. Got her little daughter hitting some golf balls tonight. Her daughter's pretty good with the golf club. But how about to the football club again? The clubhouse. In the clubhouse, the Guilford County top 10 teams. You worked on that for me, didn't you?
Oh, I did a little bit, and
the easy part, well, maybe the hard part. The easy part. At the top, who do you have number 1?
So this was where my head is at in terms of 1 and 2, and I think you probably know who they're going to be.
I got them.
My thoughts are this, is that Dudley comes in with the most experience.
Mm-hmm.
They've got 9 returners on offense coming back. Now, the hint, though, is that the quarterback is maybe somewhat of an unknown. Meanwhile, Grimsley has a quarterback that's rated number 1 in the nation by 24/7 Sports for his class. And so you think about that, I feel like Dudley has less unknowns, but the key positions, I think Grimsley, I feel more certain about. You add in the quarterback, you add in Bryce Davis coming back,
The running back.
Mitchell Summers. So I really went back and forth with this one.
And you finally pulled out one of the old Thomas Jefferson coins and flipped it.
And I pulled out a coin, and
you've got a hat, so you probably put the hat.
I do have a hat. I got to tell you, this was tough, and I might even change my mind in 30 seconds. But right now, I have Grimsley at number 1. I have Dudley at number 2. I did include a Rockingham County team. My only hunch, I had, I don't know if you want to count this or not, but I didn't realize you didn't count Rockingham. So I did have Reedsville at number 3 with that in mind.
Who would your third Guilford County team be?
I have, and this was a little bit of a thought as well.
You got a little tough there too, yeah.
But I've got Eastern next. I think that they've been a consistent team for several years. They have a good amount of experience coming back.
I like about them coming back on your Eastern side of the coin there in the hat. You got Stephen Murray. You can't deny anything that guy can do. Plus, they got an established running back at Caleb Creek. All they got to do is find the quarterback, which is got to replace Jackson Jones. Jackson Jones did so much for them last year. Phenomenal what he would do back in the day. Since we're doing our football show here this season over at the Tee It Up Indoors on Battleground, be sure to tune in. And back to the thought there, though, again, you think about it, man, Eastern Guilford does have, but they got it also kind of like Dudley in some ways, but maybe not as much as Dudley. Maybe Dudley a little bit more. But anyway, they got to establish that quarterback, Mijette.
They do have a new quarterback, but I do like this kid. I've seen some film.
He's got a Philip Rivers type arm almost, which is almost like Philip Rivers in a way.
He can run around a little bit. He's an athletic kid. I watched some film on him. I like this kid. So I have them at 3. I did kind of go a little bit back and forth between the next team I have on this list, but I hate to make reputation picks, but they have been pretty much a solid number 2 in that Mid-State 3A in recent years. And so after that, I have Northern Guilford.
Okay, that'd be your 4th Guilford.
Who I believe is kind of my sleeper pick to make a big jump.
That's what I like about them. Without going, let you go to. I just gotta say, Jackson Kemp is kind of one of the better kept secrets. He's not in some place, but one of the better kept secrets. That kid is good.
I like him too, and he's part of why I have Northern so high. They lost 4 games last year by 1 score, which, you know, when I look at those types of things, I kind of think, well, a play here, a play there, their record could have been different. They're more experienced now. They're more seasoned. They lost 1 of those games, in overtime to Northwest.
Yeah, that's a wild game.
That's
kind of wild, too. It makes me think about a point here about kind of bringing all this together, because I like to see overlap what happened there last year and what's happening now currently. And that brings me back to Ballou, and he was like the top all-time Guilford County quarterback. Then also been Andrew Atmore II, who was the #1 all-time Guilford County seasonal quarterback. That's just how much junk and stuff we had going on. There was all kinds of stuff happening here last year with offense. Man, those guys are crazy. Off the charts, 2 record setters last year between Tanner Ballou and also Andrew Atmore II. Crazy.
That wasn't crazy.
Every week was fun to keep up those
guys.
Yeah. Oh, man, we start over.
Yeah, I'm going to miss keeping track of those guys. And so I guess with that said, you kind of transitioned for me. I have Northwest next at number 5. Now, there is a question mark at quarterback.
Yep.
They also lost to Malik Jones, who was a valuable running back for them. They also lost Trenton Cloud, pretty good wide receiver for them.
Still got Hammock, though, right?
They do still have Hammock. They did get Robert Lange transferring from Southwest.
But they did lose Ryan Debo going from Northwest to Grimsley. Debo was a big loss. If Debo was here right now, I'd say, Debo, what are you doing, man? What are you doing to me? But I'd also say, Debo, you're a talented kid, so I hope you stay healthy, because he's got some talent. He's athletic.
He's a physical kid. He was one of my favorite safeties to watch last year.
I like watching running back. Just
not afraid of contact.
Banging yards.
I mean, he was the type of guy that would hit guys to prevent catches, not just getting, batting balls away. He would hit guys to, And
as a running back, he would hit guys just because he enjoyed hitting them, yeah, as a running back.
Yeah, I don't know if Darryl Brown's going to use him at running back or not, but he could.
What, we asked about, backup for Mitchell Summers. Well, hey, Coach, I can do that too. We'll give you a chance. Be ready. Be ready when your number's called. Yeah.
So I'm gonna say I have Northwest there with a little bit of a question, as to how they're going to be this year. But one thing I will say is I do trust teams that have good O-lines, and I really think their offensive line is the strength of this team. They returned 4 of their 5 guys. They've got an all-area O-lineman, Big Colin over there. They actually have him moving to H-back, so he'll be more of a lead blocker as kind of a sniffer or fullback type guy. But so I would say this: I like their line. I still think they have athletes over there, so I'm gonna have them at 5 for now, with a little bit of a caveat that there's some unknown there, but I'm going to trust it because they have been pretty good in recent years.
Watch out for this kid, too, on that JV team, or not JV team, but the middle school team. He's in 9th grade probably now. That kid, that middle school championship game, when you had Shoemate and those guys from Kaiser, who are now at Grimsley, came over and played Northwest, that was the best football games I've ever seen. That was like a double overtime Northwest Guilford championship in like the last play of the game. That's middle school. It was crazy for that game last year. And that kid who was at running back for Northwest also played, I think, on defense and did all the kickoff returns. That kid, he's going to be good for Northwest. And the Shoemate kid, like I said, for Grimsley will be good because Ty Shoemate was tall and already standing big. And who you got next? Number 6, I think it is.
All right, this pick I think could surprise some people. But at number 6, I have High Point Christian.
Okay.
They have a lot of experience coming back. I like their quarterback. Gavin Harris, a Bowling Green commit. He's going to make plays on offense, defense, wherever they need him. They've also got a long basketball kid, about 6'6", and Toot Clay, who's really a long receiver, a weapon for them. They have a pretty sturdy offensive line. Josh Smith, one of the best edge rushers. He tied for the area lead with 19 sacks last year. He comes back. The one question mark I have a little bit is they did lose Mac Johnson, defensive end, to Yale last year.
Nice.
So that side of the line, maybe we don't know as much, but I really think this team can make a deep run in the NCISAA playoffs this year. They have a coach that I think is doing some good things over there in Ryan Roche, a good staff, continuity, second year for the offensive coordinator. I have them at 6.
Who was the kid you had in the newspaper photograph from High Point Christian? I don't know if he was a linebacker or defensive lineman. You had one of the guys who made the paper photograph. You remember who that guy was?
It might have been Josh Smith, that edge guy, the outside linebacker.
Yeah, because I saw that photograph.
He was the first team all-area selection.
Yeah, for a guy High Point Christian Academy making the paper front page, that's pretty good stuff.
And by the way, they also have the best kicker in this area. Kid named David Green. I'm telling you.
Has he been there the whole time?
He was there last year. I know for sure because I was covering him last year.
Good.
He can make them from 50 deep. He made a 51-yarder last year when I covered them against Asheville School. He's got a leg. I've seen him make them in practice tapes and stuff from 55 plus. I mean, this guy was our first team all-area kicker, and he's returning this year.
The big question mark is, Kendrick Harrison went from Reedsville to Providence State out of Charlotte. Do we have anybody going over to High Point Christian that can maybe get some NIL money over there?
Maybe, I don't know. We'll see if that starts.
I heard Harrison did pretty well over there when he went down to Providence State. He did well there. So I was just wondering, High Point Christian would be the only school that really could build from that direction, because they've been around they were established, so they wanted to start getting guys in, and had guys who transferred in. They maybe had some businesses in High Point. Maybe Mr. Quabain might want to put HPU on some of those guys' backs and say, hey, man, we're going to start football at HPU. Let's go and get you NIL jersey going here. Who knows?
Who knows?
I know he's got a street name there for Mr. Quabain.
But I really do think they are building a good thing over there. And they are starting to see some kids transfer from other schools, because I think they are seeing what Coach Roche is doing over there. Came over from California a couple of years ago.
How do you get a guy like that from California all the way to the East Coast of High Point? I wonder how that happened. That's unreal. Must have just been interested maybe relocating. We wrote a
feature on it. We wrote a feature on it last year if you want to check it out.
I got to check that out for sure. Yeah, I'll look that back up.
We did.
Yeah, because, that's a big relocation there.
So he did make the journey.
Did he have some family members lived here? Or maybe somebody was transferring, his wife was transferring for a job? Was there some connections there?
They both moved over, and I think part of it was he did say he wanted to go to a Christian school. He had coached at a public school, actually a very different environment. He had coached at a very large public school and had some success. I can't remember the record off the top of my head, but he was pretty successful, in a high classification division in California before he came here. So
a lot of guys want to come to the Christian school environment to prove they can do it at that level also, be successful at that level. They've had a dream. So that was your number 6 team. Who is your next Guilford County team coming in here?
My next team I have is Northeast Guilford.
Northeast.
I think, I don't want to dwell on this too much, but I will say the coaching situation was probably one of the notable occurrences of this offseason.
One of the all-time noticeable occurrences in the past 10 years, how that happened.
But in talking to people at Northeast, sometimes when you have a situation like that, when you have a head coach that comes, leaves, and then someone takes over, especially when it's someone from within that staff, sometimes the players have doubts about it. Sometimes players, don't believe in it.
Sometimes the players' philosophy is they just hired us another babysitter. Somebody to watch over us.
And so from what I understand, they've really liked Baxter, and from what I understand, they have bought in. And so I think that's a major step right there. They've got a bunch of playmakers. I mean, Aaron Tate, he's gotten a lot of Division I interest. They're expecting him to really skyrocket this year. They've got a bunch of other, talented guys. I really like their secondary, actually. It's one of the strongest secondaries in my mind.
They've got that one kid, Ashton Timberlake. He is tough.
Timberlake. They've got a bunch of guys back there, and some of those guys are going to be playing both ways also, because at the 3A level, they're a little bit on that lower spectrum in terms of enrollment. So they're going to have some two-way players over there. They also got a big boy named Ferguson. He's about 315. He's going to play that inside D tackle position, and what I'm told, he's a monster down in the down in the trenches.
First sign I saw, things looking pretty good out there. I was out there on a Monday to interview the coach. Doing little travels around the county, getting all the coaches. And a lot of the kids off the Northeast Guilford Middle School basketball team from last year won the county championship. They're also 2 sport players. They play football. And a lot of those guys had stuck around because they were coming and saying, hey, you remember me? There he is. How am I? Go get a picture. And all that stuff. And so I was kind of surprised. A lot of those kids stayed that could have gone maybe to other schools. Some did go to other schools, but some of the key players stuck around, which is good. They're sticking with the program.
Yeah, I think Baxter, he wants to win people over. He wants to create a culture where, like you said, people aren't leaving the district. And, from what I hear, though, he's he's won the people over that are there, and from there he's trying to build something. And it was kind of accidental, but he got a head coaching job, so he's going to do what he's
Every coach like that always dreams of being a head coach. He throw it in his lap, take it, and run with it. So what about the number 7 spot Guilford County teams? Who do you have?
Number 7, I talked about Northern earlier. This is probably my number 2 team that I think is going to make significant improvement this year. I'm talking about Southeast Guilford. They have a lot coming back from a pretty young team last year. They have 8 guys coming back on offense. They have 10 on defense. Which is a lot. I mean, think about that. And I always just thought that for whatever reason, Coach Bates, you just look at his career arc, and he just has a knack for turnarounds and rebuilds. And every coach that I talked to said, he's one of the best in terms of preparation and that kind of thing. So,
and he's a guy that's got a good track background too. He brings those track guys in, like you talked about the Dudley guys doing both sports. He's got a lot of track guys that are doing football. So he kind of goes right down that line of thinking too.
They had kind of a mid-season quarterback
situation.
Yeah,
they did. The kid from NG came out there.
Alexander Marsh completed about exactly 50% of his passes down the stretch. So they didn't have them, so they'll have him for a full season.
Good for them, yeah.
So a stable quarterback spot.
Should make for a good Northern Guilford Southeast Guilford
game, too. A good O-line. They
also
have 4 out of their 5 O-line back, and Micah Martin, their left tackle, about 6'3", 285, 290. He's the highest recruited offensive lineman in the county. Division I looks. Wow. He is from Southeast.
Well, they got that one kid, Big Johnny, played there a couple years ago. He's still down at Charlotte playing, so he's still doing well. So they got some guys can go some places.
Maybe some of those Pleasant Garden Farm boys.
Oh boy, man, there's some used to be some really big kids down there back in the day.
So I'm gonna say Northern and Southeast are probably my 2 biggest turnaround / sleeper picks this year.
Who do you have number 8 in the county? Who's at number 8 for the county teams?
Now this one I did have to think about a little bit. I kind of went back and forth between my number 9 and 10 here. Mm-hmm. But I did go with Page coming in next. Mm-hmm. I think they have a lot of energy right now. Kalen Hahn, very enthusiastic. I think that he's going to bring a little something extra, maybe a little something different. He looked up to Coach Doug Robertson, but I think maybe this might be a nice little refresh for the program. I think they've got a bunch of young guys. They've got a few veterans in there, a defensive end I really like in Christian Brown. They've got some other young playmakers. They can
play some offense too, Brown's also running back, I think.
Yeah. They got a kid named Poindexter.
Asai Poindexter from Mendenhall Middle School. That guy's great on defense and great on kickoff returns. Number 1, I think he won number 1 last year. Asai Poindexter, man, he didn't play varsity basketball as a freshman. I said, come on, got to get this guy on the varsity team because Poindexter, he's a guy, no doubt about it.
They've got
they got this kid Jesse off the middle school from Mendenhall Middle School last year. Jesse, who I think saw some carries in that varsity scrimmage back on Monday against East Alabama. Jesse he's also kind of that raw bone, tough bone kind of guy.
I think basically what in my mind, I'm saying this, if they can develop a downfield passing game, because at times that was their struggle last year. If Henson can maybe take that next step and they can develop a downfield passing game, this team, I think that is probably what hinges on this team, being what they have been versus what they could be. Mm-hmm. And if their defense is a little bit more experienced this year, and I'm in my mind, I'm thinking they have a really tough schedule to start. They play Dudley, Reidsville, and Tabor, 1, 2, and 3 again, and so that's going to be tough. But if, let's say, they do struggle to start with and they can recoup, it's all about how do they handle that adversity, because when you lose 3 games like that, that's off the gate, that's tough. But tough. I'm just saying, against those teams, it's very possible, just like it was last year. And so I have Page there.
Who do you have next? Page?
Next. I have Southwest next. This is going to be a very young football team, a bunch of unknowns as well. But I will say that Southwest has been pretty consistent. And so I got to think that even if they have some inexperience, I think that they are going to have some athletes. They've got a big boy, Dawson Clark, who I do like as a defensive tackle. He's a three-man defensive tackle, so think about it this way. He's kind of a tackle/end in a way because he's that outer guy on a three-man front. So he's kind of taking Jalen Carl's place, sort of.
Jalen Carl was talented, sure was.
So they're going to have to replace guys like Carl and Corbin Wilson. They're also going to have to make a change at quarterback. What I'm told is that they're going to try to run the ball a lot this year, more ground and pound.
He said on Monday, I talked to Coach back on Monday, Marlon White. He said last year we rushed for 6.1 yards per carry. This year we want to be about 7.58 yards a carry, and we're going to run that ball a lot, maybe 3/4 of the time. So, and the Cale Lloyd kid, he transferred out, went somewhere, I think, who was there last year, quarterback. Maybe another quarterback left too. So they're kind of starting to scratch the quarterback, but they've got that running game, and just let them run it. Turn them loose.
They're counting on a couple quarterbacks with running capability. They're probably even going to give you some option looks. They're going to run what he calls a shotgun wing tee. And if you see it, it's going to look like that wing tee, but the quarterback is going to take the snap out of the shotgun. But there's going to be some option wrinkles. There's going to be some traps. I mean, some of that stuff they have run in the past, but they're going to run some power. They're going to run some traps, a little bit of play action mixed in. But like you said, it sounds like they might be the most run-heavy team in this county from what I understand.
Who do you have at number 10, your 10th team maybe in the Guilford County setup here? Have you got one left on the list?
Anybody? I think that's it.
I got 1 Grimsley, 2 Dudley. I've got 3 Eastern Guilford. I've got 4 Northern Guilford. I got 5 Northwest Guilford. I've got, let's see, who have I got? I got number 6 Northeast Guilford, 7 Southeast Guilford, 8 Page, 9 Southwest Guilford.
Oh, you missed High Point Christian in there.
Yeah, okay, but I was looking.
Wherever that was.
That's
put 10 teams.
Yeah, I set them aside there because you also had Reedsville. I set them aside. But do you have who? If you had a 10th spot, who would you Guilford County team?
If I had to pick another team.
So we're sticking all Guilford County in this one list.
If I had to,
who would we be?
I had to. Just purely public.
Guilford County Public School. Yeah, one more team to fill out this top 10.
Let me
we got guys like Ragsdale left, High Point Andrews, Smith. Western Guilford Southern. I took my guys. I
got to say it's pretty murky from there. But I got to say, from what I understand, I have talked to some coaches within the county, and a lot of people are saying they think Andrews is probably going to finish 3rd in the Mid-State 2A this year, probably behind Reedsville and West Oaks. I know West Oaks is kind of out there, but. So that's kind of my report on them. So I wouldn't mind maybe sticking them somewhere in there.
Well, let's put Andrews at number 10, and at least so you feel like and I'm going to be printing this at GreensboroSports.com later too. I've got my top 10. Here's my top 10 compared to your top 10. We've already talked about your top. Here's mine. Dudley number 1, based on some of the similar things you and I talked about, returning players, and Grimsley's got to come in with that established quarterback. Dudley 1, Grimsley 2, Northern 3, Northwest 4, Eastern 5. You had them at 3, so we're close. Southeast at 6, you had them at 7, pretty close. I got Page at 7, you had them at 8, pretty close. I got Ragsdale 9, I got Ragsdale 8, Andrews 9, which you had them at 10, close. For 10, I got Tide, Northeast, and Smith. I got Northeast down at 10, you had them at 6. A little different there. But I also got Smith in there too, because if I could slip in another team just to get them into the top 10, I do. So there's your top 10. The 4 left out, good luck to those guys. They may jump in later, who knows. Let's quickly jump over here to this Metro 4A rankings. Who do you have ranked at the top? I've got Grimsley 1, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, I did an anonymous coaches poll, and this is just my list, but when it came to the anonymous coaching poll, it was unanimously Grimsley. But I got to tell you, after that, I got a whole bunch of different answers.
Anybody's game.
From 2 through 8.
So who do you got 2 through 8 for yours?
So this is kind of feeding off the way I sort of had them ranked earlier. I have Northern at 2, and of course Northern plays Grimsley in the regular season finale.
Ooh,
so
nice. Yeah.
Hypothetically, we could have a regular season finale for a conference title game. So that could be interesting. Northwest next. Southeast.
So far, I'm even with you.
Then Page.
I've got that, yeah.
Southwest.
I've got Ragsdale. You got
And then I have Ragsdale last.
So we're pretty close because I've got everything you had except I got Ragsdale and Southwest Switch. I think Ragsdale with a new coach, he's got a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. I think he's going to scare some guys in about 3 or 4 yards.
I apologize. I have Western ahead of Ragsdale.
Oh, you do. Got Ragsdale.
So Western 7, Ragsdale 8.
Western's got Timothy Baker coming back, so we'll see. But I think Ragsdale, like I said, I think their coach is going to scare some of the running backs in the 3 or 4 extra yards just by, he's going to say, I'm not stopping now. That coach is going to kill me. So we've got our Metro 4 rankings. How about our Mid-State 3 rankings? I got Dudley 1 just like you do.
Yep. So, I mean, pretty much it sounds like we're pretty consistent at the top with a lot of these teams. Dudley 1, Eastern 2. I have Northeast 3.
Mm-hmm.
I have Atkins 4.
I don't know anything about Atkins. I got them lower.
I guess you weren't thinking of Atkins, but they are in the conference.
Oh, yeah. I did list them because I knew they're in the conference, but I don't know anything about them. I saw the one kid you had on there was supposed to be pretty good coming back.
They do have a defensive end that's heading to Navy. They've got a bunch of young talent. So I actually think Atkins, they could maybe creep up on some
So you got Dudley 1, Eastern 2, Atkins 3.
Atkins 4.
4. Who was 3?
Northeast.
Northeast 3, okay.
Yep. After that, I have Smith.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of players coming back from last year.
And they went 4 and 6 of all
We'll
things.
see what happens. You know, I think they're another team that I'm maybe not completely sure about, but they are a lot more experienced. Second year under Montes Lash. I got to think that they'll be better this year, you know, with the new coach having his second year now.
Exactly.
I have Rockingham County after Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have High Point Central, and then I have Southern.
Here we go. Just so I don't lose anything in the process, because I got so interested in all your commentary and your discussion and your information. So back to the 4 rankings: Grimsley 1, Northern 2, Northwest 3, 4 you got Southeast, 5 you got Page, 6 you got who?
Southwest.
I'm gonna make sure because I want to have Bryant Roche's poll and also Greensboro Sports poll. 6 you got Southwest, 7 you got Western, and 8 you got Ragsdale, right?
Correct. So it should be Grimsley, Northern, Northwest, Southeast, Page, Southwest, Western, Ragsdale.
Gotcha. In the Mid-State 3, you got Dudley first, Eastern second. Third, you've got Northeast. Fourth, you got Atkins.
Fifth, Smith.
Fifth, Smith, right.
Sixth, Rockingham.
Rock, yeah.
Seventh, High Point Central.
PC, and last, Southern Guilford.
And eighth, Southern.
Give you my Mid-State 3A so you don't lose the comparative evaluation, as the doctor talked about when he hit me in the head. That's how when I was a kid. So this is the comparative evaluation. Your head against this guy before his head. Got Dudley 1, Eastern 2, Smith 3, Northeast 4. I think Northeast and Smith's going to be a good matchup. I also think that Northeast and Ragsdale, the first game's going to be a good matchup. You got Rockingham County 5th, Coach Doug Robertson. Got Atkins 6th, I know nothing about them. Southern Guilford, they're still struggling. I got them 7. I got Central still at 8, so yeah. Let's go to the last conference standings here. Mid-State 2A, which I knew fairly. I just had to look them up. I had to see who was in this conference.
And maybe need to give your buddy a call from good old Rockingham County.
Yeah, old buddy up there. Yeah, sure. Jay Ramey. He'll be in here in a couple weeks, I'm sure. We're going to get him. I want to get you in here first since you had the area coverage map covered. He's a kind of a regional guy, right? Anyway, I got regional 1 just like you do.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people do. I mean, it's hard not to pick
until they show us something different. Yeah.
You know, the one thing we sort of don't know about them, they have a bevy of guys that they could play at quarterback. When I talk to people, one of the things is they have a couple guys that are inexperienced that are kind of true quarterbacks. Then they have a couple athletes that they could put at quarterback.
Guys like Deontay Neal.
Deontay Neal played quarterback in middle school, actually, during his time at Reedsville Middle. But they wonder if we put Neal there, that means we have one less receiver. Oh, yeah. That kind of thing.
Can't throw the ball to yourself. We always talked about that in the old days. You can't throw the ball to yourself.
So that's the thing. And then, you know, Kendra Harrison, as you said earlier, is now gone. They do have Cameron Jones, who's a very good receiver, about 6'3", 200. He's got some D1 looks. You know, I have a hard time picking against Reedsville. It's hard to pick against the football capital until shown otherwise. So I have them at 1.
Who's number 2?
I've got West Stokes at number 2.
Stokes, who you got number 3?
They're a little off the grid, but they are in the conference. I have West Stokes number 2. Got Andrews at number 3.
Gotcha.
I've got Walkertown at number 4. After that, at 5, I have North Forsyth.
Okay.
They did lose a little bit to the transfer portal, and so that's why I mainly have them there below Walkertown. And then at the bottom end there, I have McMichael and then Moorhead. So
okay,
that's
obviously you know more about these teams than I do. Here's how I had these guys picked, like we did both. Reidsville 1, I put Andrews 2 because the Guilford County team. I got to give these guys a push. 3, I got West Stokes. 4, I got Moorhead, which I always like the Panthers. Got some new coaches up there too. North Forsyth 5, which I think they might be a team that's coming around a little bit from what they did in the past. Then I got Walkertown, then McMichael. I got McMichael last. You got him next to last. So we're going to be down around similar in some ways.
And it really seems like a lot of the teams that we were discussing, a lot of them we both went back and forth with. Maybe we had them at different places, but it sounded like our discussion points were pretty similar, though.
My mistake, too, my final copy is much different than my preliminary copy. My preliminary copy had guys who weren't even in the conference listed because I had to go back and look them up. Where's Carver at these days? What conference is Carver in? Are they 1A now?
They're in 1A.
Where are they? Are they in there with Bishop McGinnis and those guys?
Yeah, they are. They're in that football-only league. With most of their sports, they're in the Northwest Piedmont 1A conference. Mm-hmm. But yes, Carver is in 1A.
I remember back in the day, they were like a state champion 3A team many years ago.
They did. They've had some strong history there. Yeah.
It's crazy stuff. So tomorrow night you're going to be at Grimsley and also making a trip over to High Point for the High Times event there. So you see both of those. If you pinpointed down where you'll be, gosh, it's hard to believe it's next Friday, 1 week from tomorrow, the first game of the season. Where will you be then? Have you pinpointed that down yet?
I do believe I know where I'm going. I'll hold off.
You're going to not reveal it yet then?
I'll respectfully, just to clear it with the editors, but I do believe I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Yes.
It'll be in the area.
It will be. It will be. Yes.
You're not going to South Carolina and catch Marlboro. Was it Marlboro County? Got the coach who left there from Clinton, where Coach is down there now. Apparently a lot of changes down there too. Coach Boykin, there you go. I want to get all my coaches right. Coach Boykin, who's down at Clinton right now. And Devin's still at NC State, 1 year left. Whew, he could get some pro time possibly if things worked out right. Boy, there's a lot of people to keep up with that here for sure. A lot of coaches, a lot of changes, a lot of assistant coaches switching here and there. And man, I've seen all these different schools here lately, all these practices, all these kids. And like a guy like High Point Central, Coach Doak picked up, I think, 4 or 5 guys yesterday, new guys, got them over 30. And you got Mallard Creek, who's got 147 guys out there on the field for practices. 147, those guys just lucky to get 30 guys out there.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, I have had this conversation with coaches, and the participation when I was playing, and I'm sure when you were playing too, it's not the same right now. Whether it be because of concussions, the COVID. Now, in defense, it has risen up a little bit. Since maybe that COVID, sort of, people aren't as, afraid of it anymore, I'll say. The last couple of years, the North Carolina High School Association has actually reported a rise these last 2 years. It's still not what it used to be, but it is rising a little bit. I think part of that might have been because of COVID, kind of going out of COVID, so to speak. But yeah, I can remember at my high school we had a freshman team, a JV team, and a varsity team, and we had zero problem in terms of do we have enough guys.
How many numbers would that give you probably among those 3 programs together? How many numbers would it probably take you to? 80 to 100 probably?
We had well over 100 kids. Well over 100.
I remember when I was at the school I was at, Western Guilford, back before they came in and mowed everybody down, redistricted everything. Anyway, we would have, like you said, a 9th grade team, JV team, varsity team. The varsity team always had around 35 guys. You don't want to carry too many because that way everybody's got a chance to maybe see some time, maybe, not much. But then you had the JV team, then you had the freshman team. At least you got 90 guys or maybe 100 guys in the program easily. Had to. freshman team usually started sometimes after school began. I think they'd get those guys out there. Some guys who didn't come out for JV would come out for the. I never played on the freshman team. I almost played on the varsity team my first year, but I think I eased up. Should have kept killing it, but I eased up because I wanted to kind of go back with the guys I was coming up with. But anyway, who knows? Those were some. To go back to those days and do those practices now, I always told people that those first few practices freshman year made a good impression on the coach because we had the sprints. We'd have the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and the 100s. So the 20s, the light ones, I would just run with the rest of the guys. I'd kind of save my energy. The 100-yard dash sprints, man, I would blow everybody away. I'd be beating these older guys. Where's this kid coming from? He's outrunning all these guys. I messed up.
He was saving.
Yeah, I was saving it up. And I messed up one day after about a month. He said, how are you so fast those long things? I said, how are you so fast these long sprints? You're beating everybody in the whole school. I mean, you're beating guys on the track team. I said, well, what I do, I've got a plan. And I revealed my theory, and I blew my whole cover. The whole cover was gone. Man, it was kind of sad, but that's how she went. But those were the days.
Well, yeah, those were the times.
You caught the Western Guilford interview. You had a good interview with the coach out there at Western Guilford. That first week I was out on the street on the road.
Yeah.
And the place I went by, which we have to mention before we close it out with Bryant Roche, I have to mention this place again, would be the house. It's not a home, I guess it's a house. Might be a place of business. All those combined into one on Friendway Drive near Western Guilford. That might be the place people driving around the football tour for the county. You got to drive by the Friendly Psychic. Got to drive by that house. I mean, it's right there on front. You got to go by there. The Friendly. I thought, man, of all things, you're out here following football, trying to get the preseason preview and the forecast. Here's a place you've got right there beside Western Guilford. They can go in there and say, are we 0-10? We're going to be 2-8. How are we going to do? They got it before the season. They've already got the season figured out. They got the Friendly Psychic right there near the school, within walking distance of the kids. The Friendly Psychic. And I've given those guys a lot of mentions since they came in. So either they're happy with it or they're mad because we've blown their cover if they had one. Who knows? Well, Bryant, you did a great job.
Oh, no, thank you, Andy.
So you'll be busy tomorrow night, hitting that trail tomorrow night on top of it, for sure.
I'll be busy. It's a busy season.
Oh, yeah.
Last night I was over covering volleyball between Northwest Guilford and Cornerstone. I have a story about that.
Crazy thing is, going that way, who was the Northwest Guilford volleyball coach there? Because they had Coach Dorn. Before that, I think they had Coach Joyner might have coached them before. I don't know. But anyway, who is the volleyball coach there now?
So Riley Wilson is the coach now, a former player there, was a part of that state runner-up team in 2015. Alex Phillips was there last year. You might know her as the softball coach. Yeah. And so she took Phillips' place. So they have an alum leading the Lady Vikings now.
Not bad at all. So. Did they win yesterday? Did they beat Cornerstone?
They did beat Cornerstone. It was a 5-set match, pretty competitive. I think Cornerstone's going to have a good squad. Last year they were 28-1. So
they're like a 28-1 Cornerstone?
Last year they were. Yeah,
1A school?
They kept going until the playoffs. Wow, yeah, their first loss was in the playoffs.
The Cornerstone Cardinals, more power to them.
Yeah, more power to them. So they look pretty good against a 4A opponent. And so I think Cornerstone will be strong again.
Watch out for Cornerstone. Bethany Community School and these other charter schools are coming on strong.
And, I mean, Northwest, I think they're improved from last year. You know, Cornerstone's a quality opponent, 1A, 4A, whatever they are. I'm just saying they're a quality opponent, and they won. So that's a quality win.
Quality program tonight. It's called, what is it? Oh, yeah, Football in Focus from Teed Up Indoors on Battleground. Love this Football in Focus. Love having guys like Bryant Roche in because he's on the trail, covers the territory. He knows the business right and left. He's also good friends with Ead Haddad. And if anybody connected to Ead Haddad comes in, you got to respect that guy. No doubt about it. He knows what's going on. So we'll see you again in 2 weeks. We take a break next week, go back to Hoppers baseball, one more round up there, and then come back in 2 weeks. We'll have you here again.
Oh, man. Well, I appreciate the invite as always.
You're on the regular rotisserie, regular rotation.
Thank you for having me on the program. When people talk about Andy Durham and sports in Greensboro, he's one of the first names you think of. And
yeah, because the D is so high up in the alphabet, so I have to think of me first. Alphabetically, I come near the top. That's why I chose that name. That's why I chose that name. But I did mention one thing. I got to get Coach Dorrance in. I did mention one thing in my writing yesterday. And if anybody caught it, they would say, that's kind of weird how he wrote that. But I said, Coach Chuck Doak at High Point Central. I said, did the Doak family choose that name Doak in relation to Doak Walker, the former running back, Heisman Trophy winner at SMU, back when they were choosing their name? Did they choose, last name, this was first, but did they actually use their name for him. Who knows? These things always relative, right? They always relate.
I do run into people that, my first name is people's last names. I mean,
well, your name
Kobe
is
Bryant.
Your name is so historic because the first time you came in, I said, "Good gosh, we got John Roche's relative in here, the greatest South Carolina point guard for the Gamecocks in history. John Roche, Tom Owens, and John Riker, Reebok, that great South Carolina bunch. You've heard many times we're into that, but gosh.
Yeah, every now and then, I wouldn't say I get a lot, but every once in a while I get a John Roche
Go to Columbia.
reference.
Go to Columbia, you'll get it down there for sure.
Every now and then I get a question,
if Frank McGuire was still living, he saw you, you would be playing probably at least small forward or power forward in his next game for him.
Maybe.
Got to bring this Roche guy in. Bryant, thank you so much.
Mr. Durham,
Enjoyed
thank you as always.
Always good to have you. Appreciate how you work with us. Thank you so much. Take a break, come back. Randy Norris next on Football in Focus and Tee Up Indoors. We're the home of Davis Chalks. Also, Natalie is here this evening doing a great job at Tee Up Indoors. Very good hostess. She takes good care of all of us here. And Coach Norris is coming in next. See you soon, Bryant.